There have been some huge shakeups in the FNCS just through the qualifiers. With the semis coming up this weekend, there is still a ton of big names like Mustache Malabuka, we've got Tayson Thomas HD, Aqua, Noah Rayleigh, Janice and Vortex that still need to qualify. I have the drop map thanks to my boy Maxime, go follow him, come on. And I've got the analysis, let's dive into it. First POI of interest is Chonkers Speedway. Now there's 4 main teams who are looking to land here. Flokin Clement alongside Lecce and Swilliam, who are battling out all weekend on the north side of this, will continue to do so on the north side. There's also Vicky Triona and Yikes, who seems to be going to the east side, and then Lincoln Default, who will be going to the south. So this one POI has 4 different teams contesting it, and it's already been complete shambles throughout both days of the qualifiers, and I expect this to be exactly the same. Both in Session 1 and Session 2, Flokin Clement contested against Lecce and Swilliam on that north side, and it was Flokin Clement who definitely came out on top of this. Like I said, with all 4 teams here, this is just going to be a mess. A lot of the fights that were there were just get one weapon regardless of what it was and just push. If it's a pistol, it doesn't even matter. With the format, we're getting a Victory Royale will auto qualify you through to the finals. Flokin Clement are usually like a low ground team, so winning a game will be tough with them. However, they may manage to capitalize on the craziness that's going on high ground and pick up a heal off Victory Royale with the chug splashes from the drop. So far, Clement has only missed 1 FNCS finals, so it would be a real shame to not see them get to qualifiers just because of this drop. If they keep doing badly at spawn, this is just going to repeat into further rounds day after day. So hope the 97 Default and Link qualifies in Session 1. This is probably the best chance because they've won a game already in one of the qualifiers. And then one of these teams can go to the south side. They can split it a little bit better. Moving over to Tilted Towers, there are 3 teams who at the moment seem to be wanting to drop there. That is Kinzel and Deciptos, Sanjay and Vov, and then Seti and Chapix. Now, if any of these teams qualify through into the finals, this is going to be a really contested drop spot because they'll have Benji Fishy and Mr. Savage, DKS and Bad Sniper, and then potentially what I'm probably thinking will be Kinzel and Deciptos. I think if Seti and Chapix qualify, they probably won't land here in finals. So either way, if one of these 3 teams quals, this is going to make Benji and Mr. Savage's time even more difficult in the finals. For Seti and Chapix in particular, this is the first time that they're going to drop here in an FNCS because they've been going to Logjam previously. They've also gone to the south side of Sleepy Sounds. However, Logjam is taken by Coop and Frank, and then Sleepy Sound South is taken by Flois and Drea, and then Skyzo and Jokes. So there's no point in trying to contest any of those. They also went to the Daily Bugle in Qualifier 2, but there's 4 teams there, which is a complete mess. So it's not worth being the 5th one. Those 4 teams in Daily Bugle are Noah Rayleigh and Aqua, similarly should be no surprise to anyone, Kaizen and Nyazin, Splash, Jamshood and Amplify and Flodax. Now realistically, I think the teams that are going here are looking to get the Spider-Man and win a game. I don't think these teams are going to be the ones who are looking to get top 6 on the leaderboard. These guys are set out for one thing and one thing only, and that's to pick up a Victory Royale and insta-qualify through to the finals. So I suspect these 4 teams in particular will probably be quite low on the leaderboard. However, they're looking for that win just to auto-qualify them. Moving over to the west side of the map, Mustache and Malabuka, you know, I've talked about these guys a lot this season already. They were the best team coming out of the Cash Cups pre-FNCS, but so far, both FNCS Qualifier 1 and Qualifier 2 have been a little bit disappointing for both of them. Now, Tucson Putrik contested them in Qualifier number 1 to the south side of Camp Cuddle, up on top of that hill. In Qualifier 2, there was Gabix and Schmecky who was there, and they did end up engaging, getting into a bunch of fights. However, now all 3 of the teams are going to be in the same lobby. Mustache and Malabuka seem to be contested by Gabix and Schmecky rather than splitting an area, whereas Tus is the team who's down to the south near the lake and the house up on the hill. So I'm not really sure how this is actually going to go. Is Tucson Putrik going to push in and third party this fight? Is Mustache and Malabuka absolutely going to clean them off spawn? Honestly, I think Tucson Putrik are going to be the ones who are going to come out on top out of this situation, but it's definitely not looking great for Mustache and Malabuka unless they can just wipe them super fast. Condo Canyon is an interesting POI as well. Right now it's contested by 2 teams, Andalex and Xwiz, who have been a little bit subpar this season, alongside Malumo and Sirs as well. Now both teams were here in Qualifier 2, however Hookah and Zeston were also here. These guys dominated off spawn and qualified straight through the finals in Qualifier number 2. So now Andalex doesn't have that problem. They don't have that strong team contesting them off spawn. So I think they could probably do really well, and I do actually expect these guys to hit the finals. I would be very surprised if Andalex and Xwiz weren't in the finals this season. What I'm more concerned about is then, when it comes to the finals, there's going to be 3 really strong Condo teams. You'll have Hook and Zeston, you have Andalex and Xwiz. Then you're also going to have Vadil and Reason, who have definitely alphaed up the main part of this drop and have been super strong here off spawn. So I don't know what's going to happen in the finals if these qualify, but I definitely think Andalex legs will make it. One of the teams I definitely want to highlight is Refsgaard and Scram, who in qualifier number 1 placed 9th. They actually just lost out on a tiebreaker. If they had a victory royale, they would have actually qualified through to the finals, but they didn't, so they unfortunately didn't punch their ticket through, so they're here in the semi-finals. They're landing Hell or High Water, which is just a split up to the west side of Sleepy Sound. And these guys are definitely looking really strong, given the fact that the south side of Sleepy Sound is contested by Flois and Drea and then Skyzoo and Jocks, so they can potentially push in here for Storm Surge issues, but I'm not convinced that they're going to do that necessarily because of the fact that that fight will probably end quick, and there's a lot of teams around here who aren't contested who will probably push in. Another one we want to look at is Vortex and Janice out of Greasy Grove. Now, interestingly enough, the first 2 weeks they were really poor on Surge. A lot of the issues that they were having were, in all honesty, in the brain. In that first qualifier, Janice didn't load into one of the games, and it seemed like his mentality was just completely shot from there on out. In the second day, it was kind of like a similar situation where they just really weren't playing that well, had a lot of issues with Storm Surge, in particular because there weren't that many teams around him to push. There's a lot of south zones, so a lot of struggle when it came to Storm Surge in particular. But I found that in that final game, they actually popped off, had a 10 elimination victory royale. I think that was purely because they felt confident at that moment. There was a lot of times when realistically, it was the final game. It didn't matter if they went down early. They had to try and make it into a top 8 to qualify. So they just played confidently and picked up that win with a bunch of eliminations, which was a huge point game. I think if we can see these guys going into the semifinals with a ton of confidence, then we're going to see them be really scary. I'm a little bit scared about the teams around them though. There's barely anyone to the southeast of them if the zones do pull south. So I'm wondering if they're going to either go towards Tilted Towers, so third party in there. Are they going to go to the south to go against Vortexia and Lucia trying to fight there? Or are they going to go up to the northwest to go against Tucson Putrik and Gamix Shmeki, even though those zones are a little bit dicey? I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do, but I hope they this time have a much better Storm Surge strategy planned out. And finally, how can we not talk about the biggest POI, the most crazy draw spot that's going to be for this semifinals? The main event, should we say, is Covert Canyon. Now, so far, as of the date of recording, there seems to be 4 teams landing here. Joe and Vino, Tayson and Thomas HD, Fastroki and Kylie, and Kane and Cruel. Now, the reason that this is going to be such an important POI is again because of the victory royale potential of this drop spot. There are 2 guaranteed launch pads coming from the vault in here, and if anyone knows anything about taking high ground and winning games, launch pads are obviously extremely important in this. I think all 4 teams here are almost guaranteed to not make a top 6. I would be really surprised if these teams made a top 6 if they do all fight, contest, and actually play for this POI. But what I would expect them is for at least some of these to pick up a victory royale. I think Joe and Vino alongside Tayson and Thomas HD are great height teams. Tayson and Thomas have been focusing a little bit too much on height in my opinion on that first qualifier. They probably actually could have qualified already if they didn't kind of overcommit to height in some of the later on games. However, I definitely think both of these teams have a huge potential to pick up a victory royale here. There will be an interesting dynamic because in that second qualifier, we saw Pink and Anas sitting up on the hills up above and pushing into third party. I'm not entirely sure which teams want to be the team doing that. Is it going to be Fastroki, Kylie, Kane, and Cruel? Who's going to sit around those outside areas? Third party in, because we know Thomas HD and Tayson already go to that south side of it. Joe and Vino have kind of been going all over at the same time. So this fight is 100% going to be the best to watch off spawn straight away. And in particular, at the end game, these teams are also going to be going totally mad. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out the FNCS stream. I'm going to be there, obviously, as always, for EU casting day 1 and 3, and on the analyst desk on day 2. Subscribe if you aren't already. Peace.